For these past 2 weeks, something my next guest says can only be calmed by more action from the federal government. Joining me now, Keith Springer, president of Springer Financial Advisors and the author of Facing Goliath, How to Triumph in the Dangerous Market Ahead. Keith, this market sell-off that we're seeing, I was reading some of your notes, and from reading your notes, it doesn't seem like anything can help it, even government intervention. I mean, you talk about the end game being checkmated here. In other words, it seems like a hopeless situation.
Well, not necessarily hopeless. Longer term, we've got some headwinds. We've got some definite headwinds. The headwinds I discussed in Facing Goliath very in depth. We've got demographic situation of an aging population that's spending less. We've got a very over-indebted population. The country, the economy is trying to deleverage as fast as it can, and the government is trying to stimulate as fast as it can to offset it. But we've got to let the economy delever somehow, or we're going to keep sort of muddling along, or sort of what I call slog through the mud. Otherwise, we're not going to get through this. It's going to take a few years. We need more spenders in the economy. I mean, let's face it, Charles, we just have too many old people who don't spend enough.
Right.
We have too many over-indebted people. And we need the next generation who's going to spend a lot of money, and those are the echo boomers that are really going to push us along.
Isn't that sort of contradictory, though? We need spending, and we also need to, to pare our debts a little bit. Can we do them both simultaneously?
Well, what we need is consumer spending. We have government trying to make it the difference for a lack of aggregate demand, a lack of consumer spending. Everybody's basically spending less in our economy. What we need is another generation in their peak spending years. We need the kids in their 30s and 40s because that's when people spend the most. If we can get those people into the economy spending in their 30s and 40s, the economy will grow again. We just had the baby boomers who are now reaching their 50s, spending less. The echo boomers, the kids of the next generation, are the next big wave. And we're about 4 or 5 years away before they're really going to make a push to make a dent in this economy, really push us forward for the next bull market. So it's going to be kind of a slog through the mud. Not devastating. I'm not looking for, 500 on the Dow or anything crazy like that. But it's not going to be the big growth push we saw in the 80s and 90s. It's going to be very difficult. That's why we're focusing on dividends, income. I see great opportunity in corporate bonds. Try to pick up dividend yield where you can, protection where you can, and really don't take all the risk of the market. Our specialty is getting market returns without all the risk, and that's the key, Charles, is don't take all the risk if you don't need it.
So, but what happens, I guess, is periodically when the market goes on one of these rallies, people feel like I'm too defensive, and they, I guess, have a short-term memory, but the things you're talking about seem embedded. In other words, the echo boomers are way down the road, and then, of course, our demographics are starting to look like Europe's demographics and even maybe Japan's demographics, which I think would spell complete doom for us.
Well, the difference with us in Japan is Japan doesn't have immigration, and they don't have the other generation, the echo boomers, like we do. The entire developed world is in the same situation. Europe, and that's why they're going through their problems with the pigs. Us, we're going through a demographic situation where spending is slowing. The emerging countries have a different demographic, and that's why they're sort of pushing the rest of the world along. We are in a very similar situation than Japan, but we do have another generation behind this one. And again, it's not devastating. We know they're coming. We've got to sort of slog through the mud to get there. I'm more bearish.
Keith, I don't know. I mean, watching this thing day to day feels devastating. So if we got to live like this for the next couple of years, it's going to hurt a lot of people. But you are always spot on. I appreciate it. Keith Springer, president of Springer Financial Advisors.